We have a couple minutes. I just wanted to say good morning to you. I'm Raven Wolfson. I was the executive producer and the production designer for Flight from Shadow, which is a big chunk of why this whole group of people is up here. We all worked on that project of an initial and fairly ambitious adaptation from the first book in the Wheel of Time series. And anybody who hasn't seen it already, it's on YouTube.
Has anyone here seen the film Flight from Shadow?
Have you seen the film?
Oh. Well, thank you for watching.
Absolutely, we appreciate that. Yeah, last time I looked, we're just over 76,000 views since September. Yay, right, come on. And I love this part. Over 1,600 likes and only 34 dislikes. So I really, especially because of the nature of the material and what our adaptation, I really look at the dislikes more than anything else. So, so I was like, yes, only 34 people hate us. Excellent. And we have only about, I think, 2 really dedicated trolls. Yes. In fact, one of them was so dedicated, I've decided to call him a fan. Not everybody is going to be able to be with us that we wanted to be here, but that's all right. We're gonna go forward. So let me introduce everyone. What was it? What's this guy? Oh yeah, David Webb. So we'll get into this. We've actually shot a sequel that is still in post-production. So, and of course, we're always going to try to improve our game. David Webb is part of that project. He plays a noble farmer who is unhappy about his crop. And then Blake Castleman, who did the initial adaptation from Eye of the World for our first script, and he did the adaptation for Golden Crowns of Elisande, which is our second project. He is also a fantastic human being. He helped produce both projects and is an amazing screenwriter, and I would like to say one of my favorite people.
Go on, Raven. Go on.
And then next, and next to him is Jennifer McGrew, who is the co-owner with me of McGrew Studios Custom Costume Wardrobe, but she is also the costume designer for all of our projects. And she's also the director of the cosplay event, so make sure you come up for that tomorrow. And at the end, we have Jason Ball. Jason Ball is our cinematographer, also one of my favorite people. He shot both films for us and is a remarkable visionary, in my opinion. One of the things I like to say about Jason is that he can walk. He's a person who I can put a script in his hands and I have absolute confidence that he will light it and do everything. Like, I can just walk away, and I love that. Well, I trust him completely. So anyway, so we're here to kind of talk about the adaptation process. But of course, if you have other questions about the project, we're welcome to talk about them. We were hoping to be able to show you a little bit of Golden Crowns, but thankfully we have a very conscientious director who will not let us just do that. So he said, nope, it's not ready. I said, come on, just a sneak. Nope, it's not ready. Okay, calm down. With that, I would like to say, Blake, why don't you talk a little bit about the adaptation process?
Sure. Who here is familiar with Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series? Okay, most of them.
So no one then. Excellent.
Very unpopular show.
So this is a series that, of course, started back in 1990, and they just finished the series. Of course, our one of our favorite local writers, Brandon Sanderson, who will be here tomorrow at the convention to do a couple panels and to do a signing, was brought in to finish the series with book 14, books 12, 13, and 14. Book 14 came out January of last year. Yeah, wow. And so this is a series that we hope will get filmed in some way. I hope it gets the TV series treatment, kind of like what Game of Thrones does, because I would like to see all 14 books filmed. Those of you familiar with Robert Jordan, I think they could, as much as I love him as a writer, they could probably do 2 books per season with all the talking and the backstory stuff and all the world building he does. But this is a project or a series that has languished in development hell for some time. A company called Universal Pictures owns the rights to it, and so we decided that well, and this is before I came onto the project. It was decided to see what a live action piece of the series would look like, and Raven, maybe we could talk
I have a
about
question
that
for you
process.
for a second. What were some of the challenges that you found in adapting Robert Jordan's work to a script form in our first attempt in making a visual representation of Wheel of Time?
Well, probably the biggest challenge was the fact that, do all of you remember Eye of the World enough to? Okay, remember the part where Rand and Matt are on the run from the Myrddraal, and they go to the town of Four Kings, and they go to the tavern and they perform, and then the Dark Friend shows up and tries to trap them. That's what we adapted, and basically the bulk of the film takes place in Four Kings. That chapter is like at page 390 in the book. And so we wanted to do something that the fans would enjoy and say, yep, this is one of my favorite fantasy series. But we also wanted to present a film to where people who hadn't read the book or weren't fans of the books would be able to watch and not be completely lost. And so it was a real trick because up to that scene there was 390 pages of backstory. And so we needed to do a setup for the scene. Adapting the scene wasn't a big deal. It was a lot of fun. But as far as adapting the first 390 pages so people could kind of know who these characters were, that was the tricky part.
And we were.
How did you do that?
I say we were very fortunate that we had Jason Ball on our team because he was the one that said, "I don't get it." Every time we would put up a thing, he'd go, "I don't understand. Too much geek speak, man."
Yeah, I'm pretty
Every time.
outspoken, and this was my first introduction to Robert Jordan and the Wheel of Time series. Up until this project, I didn't even know the books existed, and so I'm starting to love them, but it wasn't that way. I mean, I was immersed into the world right away because of the it's so easy to get immersed into the world when you have a costume designer here bringing all the clothes to life the way that they were described in the book, and Raven building the tavern that we used, and you can get lost easily. So I mean, I was there, and then in post, when everything was edited together, we had to thread that fine line between what you as absolute fans want to get out of it and what someone like me also wants to get out of it. I think a perfect example is there's a scene in the film where Matt's holding up, and forgive me right now because I'm going to just use layman terms, but he's holding up a golden dagger, and he's staring at it, and we just hold on to this shot forever, and ever. And it's almost like the ring of Sauron, but we don't hear anything. And then he goes and he tries to block a door, getting ready for a fight. And I was just like, why are we holding on to that shot? Well, Jason, The dagger's cursed.
And
I don't know that.
And of course, my response was, dude, it's the dagger. Come on. And he was like, yeah, I get it. It's a dagger.
Nobody told me the dagger was
It's
cursed.
Can I
It's a
add to-
golden dagger.
And I want to add to some things that Jason's bringing up, and Blake will agree, everyone on this panel will agree that anytime you're going to try to hermeneutically translate literature into cinematics, you gain some things and you lose some things. So things that we weren't right, you guys are nodding. Things where I suppose we lost. So you guys are familiar with the Myrddraals, right? In the books, it's described the wind could be hurricane force around them, but their cloaks never move. They kind of exist in another realm. Well, cinematically, not exactly
Try doing that on a zero
hugely
budget.
possible, right? And there's when you go watch the film, and I hope you guys will, because you know the books and you love the characters, go watch our film on YouTube. You'll see a lot of the commentary about, there's this issue of the hat, okay? So Matt has the famous hat. We put a hat on him, but it's not the famous hat. And so there were some fans out there going, what's with the hat? He doesn't get the hat till later, and you're not at that place in the story,
Apparently.
right?
So book 4.
Yeah, so,
The hat is book 4. We all know that now.
We are very clear on the
Right.
fact that the hat
But,
appears in.
so what we were trying to, and like Blake originally described, we were trying to make a bridge that people that were not familiar with the book series plus fans could both kind of cross. And so to have those two characters, think of them visually and iconically, the kind of different color scheme. So Rand is always described, he's in red, right, reds. And Matt is a kind of a green character, and he's, the hat is a silhouetted item that really makes them kind of set apart. In our film, we had Rand in a kind of a cowl-necked kind of thing that he could put up over his head like a hood, right? So it was kind of important just to silhouette these two characters and make them kind of identifiable, despite the fact that, yeah, if you're orthodox and fundamentalist to the books, the hat doesn't appear till later, so. Anyway, interesting challenges in the adaptation process and things we've learned about how that works.
Is if you come from that jihad side, which we've become very familiar with. No, you know what's funny though? I'm sort of harshing on our critics, but you know the reality is, I actually really appreciate them. In fact, it really showed the dedication of the fan base. There were people, you know, on YouTube you can leave comments, right? There were comment threads that were 4 and 5 comment threads long because obviously like every single thing that they thought that we did wrong. It was awesome in some ways. You know, and I think we knew when we set out, there's just no way. I mean, I actually, I know this is gonna sound strange and it's not meant to be pretentious at all, but I did develop a real, shut up. I did develop a real appreciation for the wall that Peter Jackson was up against translating Lord of the Rings, because the truth is, when you have any body of literature that is read and loved by so many, and have, you know, everybody has their own inner sort of world that is created by reading the books, you are inevitably going to step on someone's toes when you translate it, because that's not how I imagined it. Well, I know, you know. The one thing I do like to throw out though, and this is just my own little, and that is like when they say, you know, oh, you did this wrong, that, and I said, well, I'll tell you what, when you make your movie, you can do it however you want. But you know, speaking to that, one of my favorite parts of it was because we had many debates actually about the Myrddraal's cloak, and in fact we came up with a solution that if we'd had a little more time, we were going to try to explore, that where we do 2 passes with the Myrddraal's cloak, one at different frame rates, and that the Myrddraal's cloak was moving and it's still real, but it was moving slow motion compared to everything else, so that it was still completely tactile, but we were going to figure out how to composite it together. Just no time to do it. Next time, he says. But what was funny, the ultimate cosmic irony, is that the day we went out to film the Myrddraal, the main scene with the Myrddraal, we went out to the salt flats out by Wendover, And we thought, oh, okay, it'll be sort of a mild, normal sort of salt flaky sort of thing.
Well, when we showed up, it was a beautiful day and
Absolutely.
there was no wind whatsoever.
And
But
then
that changed.
it changed in ways that if you get a chance, on the same channel, which is Epic Level TV, and we're very grateful to them, they've hosted our video this whole time. We also did a behind the scenes kind of making of documentary that's also on that channel, but there's footage in there that was captured on site. So we started out during that shoot. So we start out, and it's a nice day, it's a pleasant day, and then all of a sudden, we see these dark clouds from the west coming. And then they were coming, and they were getting bigger, and there was lightning. There was 70-mile-an-hour gales that suddenly, literally there's a shot. You have to understand, this Myrdal's cloak is made out of, I think, was it, Jen, 3 layers? It's like
very heavy.
Very heavy. It's probably like 15 or more pounds, the cloak is. We have a still photograph of that cloak horizontal, like this. It was, and I love what Jason said in the documentary in his interview. He goes, it's a day we really should have canceled. But, what did you say about it, Jason?
Yeah, we should have canceled that day. Should've.
But that's the thing when you're shooting like we were shooting, which is everybody on the project. We have over 160 people in the cast and crew on the project by the time it was done. Everybody volunteered. No one was paid a penny. In fact, most people actually paid to be involved. They paid to play. And when you have limited schedules, and that's what it is, it's one of the downsides of working with a low budget is if you've got a day, you got to use that day. That's you've got the camera, you've got the stuff, you've got to go. So
Jen, I have a question for you, Jen, because I want, this is a panel about adapting Robert Jordan's book to film, and I think that besides, Blake definitely has a extremely hard job tackling adapting the actual words to a script form or a visual form. But I think right after him, you're the next person up against the 8 ball because of the vivid imagery that Robert Jordan gave all his characters, and with respect to costumes. And, we briefly talked about Matt's hat, but how did you approach, what did you do? How did you approach making these ornate costumes for the different races and or people in Wheel of Time? And what inspired you? What did you stay away from?
He's a good moderator.
And,
what are you trying to say, man?
He's a good moderator. There are challenges, right? So you guys are all fans and you know about the existing fan art that's out there of these characters. Everybody nod, just go with me on this, right? So we, as a group, under the production design of Raven, who's kind of over the whole project, kind of dictating what the look would be like or what is verboten.
Verboten, really?
So anyway, as a group, we democratically decided that we would try to steer largely clear of replicating any of the really known fan art and the iconic imagery that's out there, or the book covers, beautiful as they are. And also, since we are looking at Matt and Rand at a younger point in their development, they are kind of far less grand than they would appear later when they get some cooler duds. So in keeping with the kind of color schemes that Jordan describes, we approached these two characters with a lot of very rough-hewn, hand-stitched kind of looks. And one thing that's interesting now with the filming in HD, as not high definition, as Jason will affirm, the camera sees everything, even if it's in the background or it's on an extra or a character in the back. And so lots and lots and lots of hand stitching on these things. By far, Rand is more rough-hewn looking like, so he's kind of in a leather doublet that we designed with a sort of some interesting kind of like tie toggle closures that looks like he's kind of from some rough beginnings. Matt is a little more more upscale. He's from a little bit wealthier family, right? Trading horses and things. And it was important that we had to hand stitch every single thing on these because You never know what angle your camera is going to shoot somebody from. If our DP is going to shoot over someone's head or over their back, you want to see the beauty of all the hand stitching. We took things apart, put them back together again, and everybody wants to know this. You